Hello, Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to the Sacred Masculinity Podcast. Hello, Taylor Elwood here. Welcome to the Sacred Masculinity Podcast. The video briefly reset. Anyway, today I want to talk about how to be in integrity and alignment in your relationships. And what does that really mean? And this is building off of the previous post that I had shared, video post where I talked about trust and safety in relationships. So I don't think that we can really have a sense of trust or safety in a relationship without learning how to be in integrity with ourselves. And this applies to both men and women. And it's really important that we recognize when we're out of integrity with ourselves, because that means that we're out of alignment with ourselves. And as a result, we're out of alignment with anyone else that we could be with. And a lot of times it can be hard to pay attention to this, but it's one of those things where it kills the trust in the relationships you have around you when you aren't in integrity with yourself. So what does that look like? Well, as an example, let's say you're having a conversation with your sweetheart, and your sweetheart brings up, asks you a question, and the answer that you give her is one based on trying to please her. It's based on what you think she wants to hear, as opposed to actually speaking your truth and what's essential to you. Well, she may not catch on initially. In fact, she may never catch on, but you will know. And if she does figure it out, she's going to be angry and upset with you. And you might be like, "Well, I don't want her to be angry and upset, but the reason I'm answering the way that I am is so that she's happy and pleased with me. Because if I say what I really want, she's probably going to be unhappy." And we're going to talk about that in the next video in this series. But what I want you to consider is, first, what are you giving away by not being in integrity and alignment with yourself? Because the truth is, you are giving away something essential when you are not 100% aligned with your inner reality. When there is part of you that is set up in such a way that you're being disingenuous and you're not honoring yourself. And your partner can pick that up. She may not pick it up right away, but she can pick it up. And there's something about that makes the resultant conflict a lot worse than if you just spoke your truth and said, here's what I really think about this situation, or here's what I really want. And I say this as someone who sometimes still, even now, as a recovering nice guy, still has a tendency to sometimes say what I think the other person wants to hear. I am by no means a perfect person in this regards, but what I've been finding is that the more I stay in integrity with myself, the easier it is to be in alignment in my relationship with my sweetheart and with other people in general. And the reason for that is because I'm not lying to myself, and I'm not lying to that person. And it's not that I even intentionally am trying to lie. Like, it's just that nice guy tendency of, I'm going to say what I think this person wants because I want to make this person happy, really ends up being a sabotage for the relationship. It shuts down the intimacy and the connection. And nobody really wants that. They want intimacy and connection. Well, we can't have intimacy and connection if we're not being 100% honest with ourselves, if we're not being in alignment with ourselves. And this is something where I can say, having made this mistake in other relationships in my past, and not just romantic relationships, but friendships, etc. What I can say is that this is usually a learned response. When we're not being in integrity, usually it's a learned response that we learned, and at the time we learned it, we usually learned it as a kid, and we learned it as a way of navigating a tough situation. So, for example, as a kid, I learned early on that my dad and my stepmom would punish me for what I said. And if I was being honest with them, I would tend to get punished. And if I wasn't honest with them, it delayed the punishment. And sometimes they didn't figure it out. And so, hey, it was like I got away with something. It wasn't a good survival skill to really learn, but it was the best that I had at the time. And it was what I had available to me to avoid having a traumatic experience occur. But I've gotten older. I'm an adult now. And the same thing likely applies to you if you're watching this. And so what you want to look at is when you're feeling out of integrity, when you're answering in a way, you kind of want to pay attention to that part of yourself, and you want to sit with that part. Be like, what's really going on here? Hold space with that part of yourself. What am I trying to protect? Who am I trying to shield? Who am I trying to take care of here? Because chances are you're trying to protect yourself. And the reason you're doing it is because there's this part of you that's afraid that you'll get hurt or something along those lines. And it's understandable, but we want to be gentle with that part of ourselves. And at the same time, we want to put ourselves out there and say, you know what? I can be brave. I can speak my truth. And yes, there may be a moment of conflict, but that conflict can be worked through. The chances are I have skills and my partner has skills, and we can apply these together in order to help ourselves grow and become more intimate and connected with each other. So these are things that we want to be thinking about in terms of being in integrity with yourselves. Because when you're in integrity with yourself, you know who you are. And you are representing who you are. You are representing yourself. And you're not pretending to be something that you're not. And you're not trying to avoid upsetting someone. And you're not necessarily trying to upset them either. I mean, being in integrity isn't like, oh, I can just go and do what I want. That's not the point. Being in integrity is about being in alignment with yourself so that you can be in alignment with other people. Because if you're being honest with yourself, then you can be honest with other people. And when you're not being honest with yourself, then you can't be honest with other people. I mean, how could you be honest with other people if you're not being 100% honest with yourself? And I think that dishonesty at its core is a dishonesty with ourselves. That's what I would observe about it, because it's a part of ourselves that we're denying. We're saying, well, I'm gonna shut you down in order to protect myself in this situation. But the problem is that you're not, that might for the moment work, but in the long run it doesn't, and it ends up creating a lot of dysfunction and hurt for yourself and for the people in your life. So I want to encourage you to really examine the way that you show up and speak your truth. And again, as someone who's learning to do this myself, I tell you this because I want to normalize the fact that this is a skill that we all have to learn, or most of us have to learn anyway. I mean, chances are we've grown up in circumstances where it didn't feel like it was safe to speak our truth or to show up the way that we wanted to, or to show up authentically. And I get that. But you're an adult. You have that opportunity, that option to do that. You have that option to take back your power. I'm not saying it's easy, but it can be one of the most affirming experiences of your life when you say, I'm going to take back my sense of presence and power. I'm going to speak my truth. And yes, there may be some moments which are uncomfortable, but I'm going to trust myself, and I'm going to trust that whoever I'm connecting with, whether it's a friend or a beloved or a family member, whatever, I'm going to trust that if they are genuinely invested in this relationship, we can work through it together. We can figure it out together. Because that is where the power is. And that's what builds trust and safety in relationship. Because if this person's like, I trust you're speaking the truth, and I can trust that you're speaking the truth. I may not like the truth, but I can trust that you're speaking it. Then they start to feel safer with you. And it may seem odd. I was like, but I made them unhappy. Why are they safe? Well, they might be unhappy in the moment, but they're like, okay, this person's being authentic and genuine, and that's really important and powerful. So that's the kind of relationship that I'm definitely striving for. It's the kind of relationship that I would want you to strive for as well. And so I share that with you because I think it's really important to recognize that when we are in integrity with ourselves, we create alignment. That alignment first starts within, but then it shows up outwardly in our relationships, and it creates ultimately much more intimate and close connections. When the person I'm with can, or my friends or family or whoever can trust me to be genuine and speak my truth, then they know I can trust this person and be with this person. And that's what we want. All right, thanks for watching, and see you next time.